Hi everyone, let us start with lab 10 Java Persistent API one-to-one relationship mapping. Here we are going to create two tables, okay, and for each record in table professor we are going to write a record in table address. That is, the professor's address is stored in address table. Okay, so here for each record of professor there will be a record in address table. So this is called as one-to-one mapping, and in reverse also we can say for each record in address table there will be a record in professor table. Is it clear? So it is called one-to-one mapping. Let us see how to do this project. Okay, file, new project, Java with and Java application. Next, let us give the topic project name as 1-to-1. Okay, 1-to-1, and the class name as main. Finish. After creating the project, let us go and create the two entity class. Okay, one is for professor and one is for address. So entity class here, professor, professor 1, because I'm already having a name as professor, and the package name is dot here 1-to-1 dot entities entities. The private key is primary key is set as long. Create persistent unit. Next, here 1-to-1 pu, it is automatically there, don't touch that one. Now come and just click the database, that is order-by host sun app serve samples, and click create for table generation and finish. Now our entity class professor is ready. Let us create the one more entity class. Right click, new entity class. That one is address 1. Okay, so already the package name came, everything is here. Just click finish so that we have the second entity also in your professor entity class. So what I am going to do is I am going to add the attributes of your entity class. So that is, we can say it as properties. What are all the properties? It is already, we have ID. Now what I'm going to add is private. So for professor, his name, private string. Okay, first name first, first name, then control is it, then private string, last name, comma, private int, age of the professor, and private double. See, in database string will be varchar, int will be integer, double will be float, I think so, for double salary. Okay, so we have created all the four. Now from mapping here to professor to address is at 1-to-1. So now just add the import class for 1-to-1. Okay, so persistent, no, so cascade is equal to, so now error started coming, cascade. So now include the cascade also, cascade type dot persist. Why persist cascade type? Okay, then what I have added, cascade type dot persist. There is no semicolon for any annotation classes. Okay, now coming to the next line. So this is for our address class. So now let us create a variable, what object, private address address 1 address address. For that I am creating an object. Now right click, keep here, right click, insert codes, getter and setter for everything. Okay, even for address 1. Okay, so generate. After generating this, come down to the last one, to string conversion. Here in this, just there we are returning only professor ID. So ID only we are returning. I just want to return everything, that is I want to print everything. Insert code to string. Just I can remove the address here. Okay, generate. Let me check whether address has been, what is the address is having code, it is there. Getter and setter is there for address also. Now come to the address file. Here what are all the things it is going to be added. Let us add the properties here. Private. What are all the things available here? Here we have street number, private, int street, street number, private, int building, building, building number. Next, private private string. What is the city? Private string country. Then private string region. Okay, after creating all these things, let us map for each at 1 to 1. Okay, what I am going to map with 1-to-1, import 1-to-1 first. Okay, 1-to-1, mapped by, mapped capital BY is equal to address. Okay, n, there is no semicolon. Private professor, for professor here PROFESSOR, professor 1, PROFESSOR, professor. Okay, now let us create the getter, insert code, getter and setter for all attributes. Create. Next, Go to the last one, override this one. Okay, delete and rewrite it. Insert code to string. I don't want professor, just the remaining. Generate. Okay, now the two entity classes are over. Come for our main class. In our main class, what we have to do, we have to give inputs for everything. Okay, now let me come to lab 10, which I have already completed. Let us take the codes from here so that it will be little bit fast. So from here till the end, Control C. Now where is our main.java? And Control V. But you don't copy, you just type everything whatever it is here. So here what entity manager factory. So EM of entity management factory is equal to persistent dot create entity manager of what is our project name, that is entity class name. Come here, meta info persistence.xml. Here our name is there. So Control C, come back to your main and you can write the name here, Control V. Okay, then entity manager EM is equal to EMF dot create entity manager. So this create entity manager semicolon. Here create entity manager. Next address, just click this one. Wait, before that, this is minus address 1 of address 1. Here also professor 1, here also professor 1. Now let us bring those entity classes here. Okay, entity here also. Add import of entity professor 1. So for address 1, I'm setting all the values into the table. Set city, set country, set region, set street name and street building number in address object dot set city means in the table for city the value is set to Sohar, country is set to Oman, and region is set to North Batina, and street number is 121 and this is 1210. Next for professor, okay, for professor here I am setting professor equal to new professor of professor professor dot what happens, it is not coming. Okay, I have not created the getter and setter for professor. Okay, get back to professor.java. Address everything, it is there. Then what happens? Set first name is also there. Okay, let us come back here to the main thing. Professor 1. Okay, professor dot set, only for ID it is there, it is not there for any other thing. Let's go back and check why. Professor 1, set last name, it is there. Set and get methods are there, but why it is not showing in the main.java? Professor dot get class, get hash, get toString. Why it is not available? Okay, sorry, save the class. So all the things will be gone. I have not saved the project, so it was not coming. Once it is saved, I can set all the values here. So now these two lines has already been written at the end, so no need of these things here. Delete. Address also set. After that, see here what I am telling is set the address of object on the professor entity. On professor entity I am setting the address. On address entity I am setting the professor. Now I am just asking to write all the things into the table. So now let us see what happens. Save the program and run the program. Once it is run, okay, now I have not added the library. Let me add the library first. Add library database driver. Once the database driver is added, I think so this error will go. Okay, yes, the error is gone. Now come back to service. Now come back to the data scheme app table. Just keep here and refresh. See, address is here. Click the address table and view data. Okay, see what is the data we have. 1 ID 2352. Okay, building number is whatever we have given, 1210. City Sohar, country Oman, region North Batina, and street number is 121. Now coming back to your professor 1. Okay, so now coming back to our professor 1. Before going to professor 1, just have a look of the ID very clearly, 2352. Now let us open our professor. See, 52 address ID of address is stored in professor. Is it clear? So ID is 2351. It is professor ID, and the address where it has to look for the address, that ID is stored here. So when you go to address table, that is the ID 2352. So that ID is stored as address ID here. So these two tables are linked. It is having one-to-one mapping. Let us come back to the project. Okay. Let us try to print the data. So for printing, what I am going to do is I am going to make all these other than entity manager and entity factory. I am going to make everything as command line, and I am going to print the object. So I am creating for professor, I am creating a variable prof and em, what it is saying, professor in package, one-to-one source course. What is this? Professor 1 equal to professor 1 dot class new. Why I am giving this number? Wait, let us just find the value first. Address 1, here also address 1. Okay, fine. So what is the mistake here? I am having one more slash. Okay, These two are not needed. Okay, here what I have done for professor 1, I have created an object, and from entity manager I am finding professor 1, and in that the long id, the id is a long type, no? For that, first let us go and find the value of that one. Okay, this is, see, value is, address id is 2352 and professor id is 2351. 2351 and 2352. 2351, 2352. So now let us comment these lines first, and let us ask, okay, let us run the project. You can see, if you run the project, what happens here? Professor id is 2351, first name Juma, last name Ahmed, age 25 and salary is 1000. It is displayed. Now let us just remove the comment tag from here. Okay, sorry, so I just want to remove the comment tags. Okay, and let us run the project. So what happens here now? See, for this system.out, first it is printing the professor details, id, first name, last name and age. Next, what I am saying, for address, okay, address object, I am finding address.class. In that I am finding a record with id 2352, and I am asking the record to be printed. Next, with this record I am getting the professor, which professor is linked to this record. Okay, see here, first address is printed for 2352. Okay, next it is printing the professor which is linked to this address. So we can able to identify for each professor one address is there in the database. If you want, you can create more datas in the database, and you can check and see. With this, our project is over.